All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at our annual NSBA Gary Wild event. On behalf of the NSBA and on behalf of my co-chair tonight, board member Marvin Mendez, welcome. Tonight, you're going to hear about a wonderful man, Gary Wild. Gary was a past president of the NSBA, and he was known for his kindness, for his pro bono advocacy, and for his unwavering devotion to our community. To that end, every year we honor organizations who exemplify his character and his interests. Tonight, we are thrilled to honor two such organizations, the James B. Moran Center for Youth Advocacy, as well as Legal Aid Society of Metropolitan Family Services. We certainly appreciate all of the great works that both of these organizations provide. In a few moments, we are going to have a short breakout session so we can interact with each other just for a few moments and catch up with all of our NSBA friends. Before we do that, I'd like to acknowledge the judges who are on the call, including the presiding judge of the 2nd District, Presiding Judge Shelley Sucker-Dermer, whose father was one of the founding members of the NSBA and I believe the 2nd president ever of our organization. After this brief session, we will come back and reconvene and start our program. So for now, enjoy, socialize. Welcome back to our virtual Gary Wild event, and thank you all for joining us. I know in-person events have shut down and we've all been adapting. For some of us, this means that we've expanded our slipper and sweatpants collections. And while this is one thing that has been happening, it's also something that has allowed us to expand our programming in a way that we could not have done if this was an in-person event. For instance, our NSBA mock trial program was able to accommodate approximately 40 high schools and almost 600 students in comparison to our usual 14 or so teams. So it's kind of the silver lining, or the goldish lining, if you will, on an otherwise frustrating situation. So I am glad that we've also expanded our membership under the second Vice President, Kilby McFadden. We've expanded our membership to about triple of what it was, to the largest number that we've had in NSBA history. Tonight is also a unique night that I believe is going to be really special because it is in fact virtual, because for the first time we are going to be presenting you with photos and recorded anecdotes of Gary Wild. You're going to hear from people who knew him best. And I really believe that after you see this video presentation, that you're going to feel like you knew him and that he was one of your friends. This video is going to allow us to hear from a few people, including first retired Judge Alan Goldberg, who is one of the founders of our event. Judge Goldberg is a former president of the NSBA. He's a former recipient of our Judge of the Year Award, and he's a true friend to Gary. Additionally, we are going to hear from two of our current NSBA board members, Bob Romanoff and Paul Plotnick. We will also hear from Lonnie Ogus. Lonnie is a former president of the Decalogue Society and was a very close friend of Gary's. And finally, we're going to hear from Gail Vernicel, who is also a former NSBA president, as well as a colleague and a friend of Gary's. I'm very excited for you to see this video and see why we honor Gary every year. If we could show the video.
I want to welcome everyone to my friend Gary Wild's memorial dinner. I met Gary 30 years ago, really more than 30 years ago, and they've asked me to bring a picture of Gary, which I have. You can see a man there with a white suit, and that's Gary, and he has a beard. And this picture was taken in 1982. So that's even more than that's 38 years ago. I was a Cook County public defender doing death penalty cases when I first met Gary. And he, of course, was a member of the North Suburban Bar Association. Gary introduced me to a lot of the people who turned out to be wonderful, welcoming people. He had a way of welcoming new members to the North Suburban Bar Association. He went out of his way to make them comfortable. And he made the North Suburban Bar Association grow over the years, develop more members. He also made the North Suburban Bar Association part of the coalition of suburban bar associations. And they grew to have a good reputation throughout Cook County because of his efforts. I can tell you a little bit about Gary's practice. He specialized in doing Social Security disability cases, and he helped a lot of people who needed support because they weren't able to work. And Gary was very committed to trying to help them. He also did work in helping indigent people who were possibly involved in a criminal case, or at the juvenile court, they were parents or children who needed help in those courts. And Gary volunteered to do a lot of that work and was very well thought of there. He was a member of the American Civil Liberties Union. And because the two of us tended to represent poor people and underdogs in our system, we had a mutual respect for one another. and over the years that grew. Gary was also involved in local politics in the suburb where he lived, which was Evanston. I lived in Skokie at the time, and I did my work, but I was not involved in politics. In 1992, the Cook County sub-circuit system, way of selecting judges on a smaller area, in a smaller area rather than the whole of Cook County, was developed. And at that time, Gary urged me to run for judge. I always thought it was sort of a miracle, but I got elected. My first assignment as a judge was at the juvenile court. And I tell this story because to me it's funny, and I think it was funny to Gary later. Not so much the first time, because he appeared in my court shortly after I had been assigned to the juvenile court. And when his case was called, he had a big, broad smile on his face because he was appearing before someone who was a friend of his. And I was concerned that people might think I was not impartial. And so I told the lawyers and Gary that I was going to recuse myself. His smile changed immediately to a disappointment. So we laughed about that because that was pretty much a shock to him. Gary passed away at much too young an age, and I'm really very appreciative of the North Suburban Bar Association not forgetting about him and doing this dinner every year. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bob Romanoff. I'm a longtime member of the NSBA and a longtime member of the board of directors of the NSBA. I knew Gary for a long time. I do remember going to Gary's office. I was a criminal defense lawyer, but I also practiced at juvenile court, and we would get together at times. And I can also substantiate about Gary being a great lawyer, an excellent lawyer. But one thing that he and I had in common was that if you ever saw Gary's desk, which I had occasion to see, and it was very close to looking like what my desk looked like. And in fact, I used to show clients a couple of plaques which said, "I'm an excellent lawyer, not a neat lawyer, and that creative minds are seldom tidy." And that certainly was described Gary in many ways. But even though he was a great lawyer, the plaques that I have shown you certainly described him fully. Thank you.
I'm Paul Plotnick, attorney at law. Been practicing law for 46 years. I knew Gary Wild very, very well. Gary and I did a lot of pro bono work in juvenile court over the years. And going to juvenile court, it was kind of a place, at least in those days, that you hurry up and wait. So you sit there and you have opportunities to talk to people. Gary was the type of guy that would help anybody and was not really interested in money. I always felt that Gary should have been the guy that should have gotten all kinds of awards, but he was really, really a good guy. And it's what every lawyer should strive to be. They should be like Gary, because lawyers are there to help people, and that was exactly what he thought about. And if he was around today, he would still be an inspiration. I dearly, dearly miss him. Thank you very much.
I'm Lonnie Ogas, an old friend of Gary Wild's, who we're here to pay tribute to. And I'm not sure exactly how I met Gary. I can't remember anymore. But he was the president of Decalogue Society, a Jewish lawyers group in Chicago. And he was actually going to be the president. He was the next president coming up. He said, please be on the board of directors. I could use another vote. So I joined the board of directors and eventually became also president of Decalogue a few years later. Gary was a person who loved to go out and eat. One of the things, of course, that he is famous for is Fannie Mae candies. Gary would walk up LaSalle Street near my office, and he would stop in at Fannie Mae every single time he went by. And he would go in and get one, not two, one Fannie Mae. That was his love of Fannie Mae, but he knew he couldn't eat more than that. I also represented Gary. He's not here, so I can tell the story, as I've told it before. I don't think I'm getting any more trouble. Gary was arrested in the suburbs for a DUI. Gary blew 0.00. The police officer was not happy that Gary blew 0.00 and took him to the hospital so that they could draw blood from him. The blood came out 0.00. When the traffic ticket was dismissed, I represented Gary in his lawsuit against that police officer and the village. Gary would be thrilled to know that his name and his civic mindedness is still being kept alive at the NSBA. And the fact that there are yearly recipients of grants and donations and honors under his name, under the bar's name, would thrill him to no end. And I want to make sure that we take a drink and everybody has a drink for Gary. He would appreciate everybody getting together and having a good time, having a good meal, and doing good things. Okay.
My name is Gail Vernacell. I am a past president, 1999-2000, of the North Suburban Bar Association. I am excited and honored to be a part of this program tonight in honor of Gary Wild. I would like to thank the North Suburban Bar Association board members and welcome guests for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you. I met Gary back in probably 1991, 92, when as a new lawyer, I had attended my first meeting at the North Suburban Bar Association. I was well into my 30s when I got my law degree, so it was somewhat intimidating to be joining a bar association that had people my age who'd been practicing for years. Back then, the Bar Association met at Hackney's down in the lower level on Lake Street in Glenview. I went to that first meeting, went downstairs. It was a large crowd of people, and I probably looked as nervous as I felt because I wasn't standing there very long when a gentleman came up to me and introduced himself, asked me my name, and I think the rest is history. That gentleman was Gary Wild. We had an opportunity to speak for quite some time. He introduced me to other members. He invited me to sit with his group of people to have dinner and made me feel extremely welcome. Over the years, I got to know Gary, and I think he embodies a lot of what the North Suburban Bar Association is. We're a smaller bar. We are a very friendly bar. We are a bar association where lawyers have made friends that have lasted for years. It's almost 30 years since my first meeting, and I am still a participant with the North Suburban Bar Association. Gary was a good resource for networking and also connected you with other people when you met. I hope that that's what we continue to do as part of the Bar Association when people come in and get to know us, and that we walk up to them and we learn a little bit about our new members when they come in and carry on that tradition that Gary did. Just shortly before I became president, Gary passed away. And it was in my year as presidency that we established this memorial dinner for Gary. And it was an opportunity to recognize Gary's work. And so that's what this award is about, to recognize those agencies that do the work that Gary did. And so I'm very thrilled to see that probably almost 20 years now that we have been doing that and recognizing many agencies for the work that they do. The attendees to this event also appreciate his legacy because they continue to come year after year and participate in the event. And I would hope that the Bar Association continues their work following in Gary's path. And I've always felt that our Bar Association does work closely with community, with each other. And we all sort of learned a little bit from Gary and take it with us in our everyday life. And I thank you again for giving me the opportunity, and good night.
So thank you for putting together that video and what we believe is the 20th annual Gary Wild event. I think you can see now that you know a little more about Gary, why we choose to honor him year after year, as well as to honor his legacy. So now that you know a little bit about Gary, we're going to hear from our honorees for tonight. Both organizations will be receiving a monetary donation from the NSBA, along with donations that were provided by many of you when you signed up for the event. I think you will agree that these organizations are deserving and that they exemplify Gary's character and his love of public service. First, we are going to hear from the Legal Aid Society, or to LAS to those in the know, of Metropolitan Family Services. I can personally attest to the fact that LAS is very busy and that they have become even busier during the pandemic. You will hear about LAS through Lauren Gutierrez. She is a supervising attorney in the Safety and Family Practice Group. She has worked with LAS since 2016 when she began as a legal intern with the domestic violence team, and now she has helped launch their Safe Families program. She currently supervises that program, and she supervises the attorneys and the paralegals in that program. Lauren also conducts training on with community partners on such topics as the Illinois Domestic Violence Act, as well as criminal protective orders. Lauren received her JD from Chicago-Kent College of Law in 2017 and her bachelor's degree from Quincy University in 2014. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Lauren Gutierrez. Lauren.
Thank you, Judge Goldish, and thank you to everyone at the NSBA for this award. Our agency does a lot of different types of work, but there are two programs that we really wanted to mention tonight. The first one is our Elder Justice Initiative, which works to assist seniors who are victims of financial exploitation. And part of that work is done through a partnership with the Adult Protective Services located in the Skokie-Evanston area. The second program that we wanted to highlight is our Safe Families program located in Chicago's Domestic Violence Courthouse. And we have a short video about that program.
It seemed like you were like my little super moment that came in and saved the day. You were patient with me. You listened to everything I had to say. You understood what was going on. You was like, no, it's not fair. You don't deserve that. Even though plenty of times I was like, no, I give up. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be bothered. Okay, whatever he wants, let's just do it. You're just like, no, that's not how this works. We're not gonna let him get away with that. Everyone that worked on your team, when you left me for a while for maternity leave, they were extremely helpful. They were like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. When we had to go to court and you wasn't able to be there, they were there for me. They still gave me support and they gave me courage to say, hey, look, this is this needs to be done. No, don't give up. No, don't stop the process. Keep going, keep going. That's one thing I am beyond grateful about. And it's hard to have a support system when you go through something like this, because you lose everybody that you think you have. And that's one thing that Metropolitan Family Services did not do. No one gave up on me like I gave up on myself.
So I think it's easy to see why we chose LAS as one of our honorees. They really help people who are, during the time when life is at their worst, LAS does their best for them. And if you listen to a lot of what Ms. Bianca had said on that video, I think you can see how important the services are that are provided. And I think it completely exemplifies the spirit and the legacy of Gary Wild. So on behalf of my co-chair, Marvin Mendez, and me, and on behalf of the NSBA, I'd like to present a certificate to Lauren.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Judge Goldish, again, and thank you to everyone from the NSBA for this wonderful honor.
Congratulations to LAS. I'd also like to acknowledge the former executive director of LAS, Melanie McBride, who's on the Zoom call tonight, who was with LAS for a number of years and has recently left to go on to a different agency. So now I'm going to talk about our next presenter. Most of you know him. I feel like there should be a drum roll and there should be smoke where he's coming on, but most of you know the Honorable Judge Stephen Bernstein. Judge Bernstein has been a judge for approximately 11 years, and he has been a fantastic NSBA board member for over a decade. He is also a former first spouse of the NSBA when his wonderful wife, Judge Jeannie Cleveland Bernstein, was the president of the NSBA. Judge Bernstein is also a past recipient of our prestigious L. Sanford Blustein Award. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Judge Stephen Bernstein. Steve?
Thank you, Megan. I expected a drum roll, Megan, but I'll go forward notwithstanding. I'm here today with the honor of introducing to this board, to this group, the James B. Moran Center. And my first relationship to this was with its predecessor organization, which was called the Evanston Community Defender. I had the honor of serving with James B. Moran as a board member on this organization. And Jim Moran, former federal district judge, was a Gary Wild. He was a wonderful man, and I'm happy to say that the center now named in his honor has carried on his tradition. They appear regularly in my Skokie courtroom, juvenile delinquency court, and it is an honor for me to have them there with their outstanding legal representation, as well as their outstanding social conscience and psychological and different resources that they bring for the children of my court. When I have a script, I don't do particularly well, but let me now introduce to this board the current executive director of the James B. Moran Center. Patrick Keenan Devlin is a cum laude graduate of Northwestern University, where he attained the Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Music, got a law degree from the University of Chicago. Subsequently, he worked with the health policy as a health policy advocate for the Sargent Shriver National Center for Poverty Law. He was then a legislative director for the Citizens Action in Illinois. He then became the director and the staff attorney in the Moran Center, which represents youth in juvenile delinquency proceedings and in school law proceedings. He led the agency there in its development efforts. In July of 2016, Patrick was named the executive director of the Moran Center. He currently appears in juvenile court, and in addition to which he's ensuring the effective representation of the center's strategic view. He's certified as a juvenile defense trainer, and he is an outstanding lawyer. He is currently on the board of the Shield Catholic Center at Northwestern, and also on the Citizens Actions Committee. He actually is also a trained operatic singer, and we did have the occasion to ask him to perform tonight. However, and I don't know if this is true, but Patrick has never lied to me before, there was something about union negotiations, and he couldn't perform because we weren't able to give him his stipend. However, notwithstanding that, Patrick Keaton Devlin will now tell you about a wonderful Evanston organization. Patrick?
Thank you, Judge. I'm glad that my agent got back to you that you could not afford me for this evening. But all kidding aside, thank you, Judge. Thank you so much for putting forward the Moran Center for this award. And just, on behalf of the Moran Center Board of Directors, our staff, advisory council, thank you so much for this honor. Like Gary Wild, the Moran Center advocates for justice in the courtroom, access to the classroom, and restoration in the community on behalf of and alongside historically marginalized youth, emerging adults, and their families. And our direct services and policy advocacy work affect change locally, regionally, and statewide, advancing the vision of a more just, racially equitable, and restorative society. Now, I'm in front of, virtually a room filled with lawyers, so I can't miss this opportunity to challenge you. And I think, not having known Gary Wild, I think he would want me to. So what can you do to carry on Gary's legacy? And I'm always called back to one of my heroes, Brian Stevenson, who says 3 things. 1, you got to get proximate, because there's power in proximity. So do I have any lawyers in the house? I know I do. And here's the call. Take on a case. Take on cases, plural, pro bono at the Moran Center or at LAS, which I'm so honored to be sharing this stage with tonight. Get uncomfortable. Give of your time and talents in a way that goes beyond casual dabbling. Get invested. Give financial support beyond writing a check for an amount that doesn't cause you to stop and think. Give to a cause that you feel passionate about in an amount that maybe kind of hurts. Dig deep. And the last is you got to remain hopeful. You cannot be a change agent without hope. Do not become overwhelmed by the enormity of the issues that create inequity and inequality in our community. And you got to celebrate small victories, which I know, hearing more about Gary tonight, I know that he did. I also am really excited to just show you a little snapshot of the Moran Center's work in this short video, which really speaks about how our work was even made more urgent during the pandemic over the past year. So if you could show that video, I'd really appreciate it, Tricia. Thanks. COVID-19 has swept the world, and it has swept our community as well. Our kids and the families that we represent have felt the pain, the heartache, the stress of the pandemic deeply. And the Moran Center has been there, on the front lines, responding to their needs, representing them in court and on the streets, ensuring that they are safe and protected, housed and cared for.
Being in custody is extremely stressful under any circumstance. With the COVID-19 crisis, they feel like they are stuck. They have no control over what is going to happen to them. There are 2 particular young men that we represent. They were both in custody and were homeless. The county jail was the, quote, hotspot in all of the U.S. Kristen was able to find a safe place for both of these individuals if I could get the judge to approve their release. Going into the courthouse, there's a computer sitting on a table and I can see the judge. Currently, we have been able to arrange for continued safe housing for both individuals. I think it's important that we're there for them.
Patrick,
Judge, you're supposed to give me the award.
Back to your court.
Judge, you're supposed to give me the award now.
I heard there was not going to happen the thing that happened with Megan. Is that correct?
That is correct. Judge Gorlish made it look.
I heard that he has to sing some, I don't know if he's a tenor or
I'm a tenor.
what, but I believe he was going to sing for his supper, so to speak.
Judge, I actually did spend some time thinking about what could you sing to say thank you, and I could not think of a damn thing. So I'm just gonna have to.
We have time, Patrick. We have time. You have time to think.
Well, I gave some thought, but I couldn't come up with something particularly that would sound good over Zoom. I think that I would hurt some ears as an opera singer over Zoom.
Not at all.
But again, Judge, I'm just really grateful for this award. And thank you for honoring us and lifting up Gary's legacy and the work of the Moran Center tonight. So thank you.
Well, on behalf of the North Suburban Bar Association and myself as a juvenile delinquency judge who is lacking in resources, not with the Moran Center. Your resources are outstanding. Both legal and the counseling resources are wonderful. And I'm happy that you're in my courtroom. And I say that to many people, but not with the same gusto. So, had the certificate been around, we got to give him the check. The certificate he can get later. I encourage everybody to contribute that which you can. This is a great organization, as is our other recipient. And I thank you. Gary would be proud. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations to both organizations. Just kind of echoing something that Patrick had mentioned, in terms of contributing your time, that is kind of the hope and would honor the spirit of Gary Wild. In past years, we've had other recipients where attorneys have attended the event and ended up sharing some of their time and earning some of their pro bono credits with certain agencies. I know that that was true for the Kane Center, for the Chicago Lighthouse for the Blind, for Lifespan, for the Domestic Violence Legal Clinic. You have two huge agencies here who could really use your help. They are providing services for people who are in great need. So so please take that into consideration when you're thinking about where can you donate your time, not just your financial resources, but your law degree, your hours. So I hope that you'll take that into consideration. It's clear that these are two agencies that have done so much good for our community. And I'm on behalf of the NSBA, I believe we are just so happy to recognize both of these organizations. I'm going to turn over the reins now to my esteemed colleague and fantastic co-chair, Marvin, the closer Mendez, to close us out for the night. Marvin?
Thank you. I feel like, what's the guy, Harvey Specter in Suits now with that introduction? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. But first and foremost, thank you for Judge Goldish for putting this event together, for making this happen, for sharing all of your time and putting all of your energy into this. Thank you for the team and the staff behind us that supported us and making sure that this was a successful event. And congratulations to the Moran Center and the Metropolitan Family Services. What you provide is tremendous for the community, and we thank you for all the efforts and energy that you give to your community and that you selflessly give as well. And to all of you who are present here with us today, thank you for sharing your time, your energy, and selflessly donating. Insert wink, wink here. What we do here is, specifically at North Suburban Bar Association, is we create a community, we create a family, we create friendships, long-lasting friendships, as you can see by some of the stories that have been shared here. And we encourage you to participate in this because your participation is important. We get to meet other wonderful people. There's tremendous networking opportunities. But we also then introduce areas of the community that are in need of help. Today's, people that were honored today and institutions that were honored today were because members of our community were able to know of them and share their information. And we're looking for an opportunity to expand their activities and share that information with everyone. These communities provide a very important support to people out there in dire situations. And including these dire situations during COVID-19 pandemic, they're still around. They're very successful. And by us helping them and by us bringing their institutions to light, it helps them expand the breadth and depth of their ability to share and communicate and help people in their community. So I encourage you not only to donate yourself, like Judge Goldish said, donate yourself, your time, your energy, and help other people. Unlike a lot of other people, we've been very fortunate in these dire times. And so why not see how blessed we are with certain, with our situations and give back to those that are in certain dire needs. We're always looking for people. I think a lot of people didn't go to law school just to, earn a good living, although that is an important factor. A lot of people came in with that zeal and enthusiasm of wanting to help their community and give back to the community. Reach and tap back into that youthful, person that decided when they first wanted to go to law school how to help the communities. Use the NSBA as a bridge to help you connect with those that you feel are important in your life, to those important things that matter to you in certain occasions. Also, come join the North Suburban Bar Association. Be a part of a wonderful society. We have an immense amount of events that happen throughout the year, many meetings, many events, many participation, and just side communications. Again, for the North Suburban Bar Association is not just about being part of the bar, but it's also about being part of an organization, about a community, and giving back to them by participating and knowing about someone else and what their preferences are and what knowledge they can share with us and how we can participate as a community. I tell my daughter often is, you can do many things in life, but the most important thing is to be a good citizen of your community. I think that's important. And I think that is what we embody at the North Suburban Bar Association. And I think that's the caliber of people that we have here to ensure that we are not just in it for ourselves, but for everyone else. So take the time, familiarize yourself with the Moran Center, familiarize yourself with LAS, get to know a little bit about them and how you can help them. Maybe there's someone that can provide a special service to them and help and donate their time. And also come visit the North Suburban Bar Association. Visit our website, see who we are, come to our events, get to know our people. I assure you we're a good group of people. So thank you all. Well, in the spirit of Sun Tzu, brevity is the soul of wit. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you for donating your time. Judge Goldish, you knocked it out of the ballpark. Thank you for putting this together. And for everyone else here tonight, thank you very, very, very much for your time and your energy and your donations. Take care, everyone. I'll pass it back to Judge Goldish.
This now concludes our program. Thank you, everyone. Look for future NSBA events. We have some CLEs coming up. If you look on our website, we have one coming up on April 13th, on May 13th, and on May 20th. May 20th, I'll just announce it right here. This is the first time we're announcing it, and just because I'll acknowledge that we do have the CBA president on the call, Mariam Ahmed, and we are going to be doing improv for lawyers and judges with the Second City on May 20th. It is going to be a first come, first serve sign up. There is a limit, so look for that, for the sign up for that. And if you look on April 13th, we have an event. I believe it's April 13th. Maybe I have the date wrong. We have a number of board members and NSBA members who have started their own law firms, and they're going to share some of their wisdom in terms of how that's done, including Corinne Heggie, MK Gamble, Joel Bruckman, and Jeff Moskowitz and Khalid Hassan. So make sure that you do look for that upcoming CLE. And I want to thank Bob Linick, who's our first vice president, who's in charge of the CLEs. Hopefully you'll consider joining us if you're not a member already. If you're not, we're all going to talk about you at the next meeting. So consider joining. Everyone have a great night, and thank you so much for attending.